Hi folks, this is Aquifel again, this time with a classic wrestling review for WCW's Slamboree 1998, and originally I've written this for the cagematch.de or cagematch.com or .net, I don't really know right now. I'm mostly not on the English version of the website. Anyway, I'm telling you this for two reasons. First of all, have a look at the website. It's one of the best databases for wrestling out there. And second of all, the whole build for this review is a little bit different than what I usually do, because we have these topics we're talking about, and a certain topic has one or two or at times 5 or 6 matches on it, and it's not in a chronological order, so it's just to inform you, not that you're surprised in a bad way. And well, Slamboree 1998, well, it was a wild time for WCW, especially for the NWO, and we know the first topic is the Wolfpack versus the NWO Hollywood, because before Slamboree 1998 we saw the NWO break, thanks to internal problems, into two fractions: the NWO Hollywood, or around Hollywood, Hulk Hogan, and the Wolfpack, which gained more and more members until they were 6, 7, or 8 in the end. Anyway, the Wolfpack was something Kevin Nash and Randy Savage built in order to separate them from the reign of Hollywood Hulk Hogan. And this time, it led to the following main event for the tag titles: Sting and the Giant versus the Outsiders, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall. And, well, why Sting and the Giant suddenly turned to the NWO Hollywood, respectively, why they helped Hulk Hogan, Hollywood Hogan, well, I don't really know. I have watched the Nitros back in the day, but I haven't watched them recently, so I don't really recall why they turned towards Hogan. And as far as I remember, it didn't make that much sense. But well, we know what this turn, at least from Sting, led to. Next pay-per-view, I think it was next pay-per-view, he fought against the Giant for the tag team titles, and the winner should choose a new partner, and whoops, he chose Kevin Nash. But that's a spoiler alert for everybody who hasn't been paying attention to the wrestling biz in the late 90s. So, well, the match itself, well, typical WCW stuff. There were big names, but in the end, well, the quality that those big names promised was on paper only. The match itself was rather lame, and, well, I'm not going to say much more about it because I've finished watching it just recently, maybe an hour ago, and I still really want to talk about this match because it was not good. Not by any means. And in the end, Scott Hall turns on Kevin Nash. Whoa, what a surprise. Even if nobody saw it coming, that's the kind of stuff WCW did. Oh, turn. Isn't there a song? You got to turn. Well, they did a lot of this shit back in the day, and I didn't like it back then. I don't like it now. So, well, anyway, the match sucked, as most WCW pay-per-view main events at that time, so no big surprise there. The next topic is the fight that never happened. The fight that never happened. We all know the story. It was a reaction to the D-Generation X invasion of Nitro that also really didn't really take place, because 3 weeks before Slamboree, the Axe took a tank and some plastic guns to invade Nitro. And at that time, well, WCW didn't really know how to handle the situation. They just locked them out of the building and locked themselves inside. And yeah, well, it doesn't really speak for or isn't really a testament to the quality of WCW's creative back in the day, because, well, they could have used it to their benefit. Just imagine, they wouldn't have locked the doors. They would have let Triple H and Co. in the building. Well, what would they have done? I mean, started shooting with the plastic guns. Pew pew. No, they would have been completely dumbfounded. They would have stood there and, well, yeah, let's go through with this, but how? And that would have made WWE, WWF, and the D-Generation X look like complete fools. They didn't do it, and so Eric Bischoff decided afterwards, oh, well, I've got a great idea. No, Eric, the idea wasn't that great, even if you at least stand by it, so, well, I gotta give you that. He challenged Vince McMahon to a duel at Slamboree. Yeah, he really did that, for all those who didn't know. And yeah, throughout the pay-per-view they had the Vinnie Mac cam. Like, who? Is he gonna show up? Is he gonna try to, yeah, attack Eric Bischoff from behind because he's such a coward? Well, I gotta take a sip here. You hear my voice is a little bit sore. Hopefully much better now. Well, and they really played that Vince is afraid of Bischoff, and well, yeah, that took some time that could have been invested into stuff like matches, but whoa, no, we don't do that we didn't do that at WCW. Anyway, Vince was smart enough to completely ignore this shit. Well, because, let's be honest here, if he really went there and faced Eric Bischoff, first of all, Eric Bischoff has a legitimate background in, I don't know, judo or some martial art, because in the end he really could have kicked Vince McMahon's ass, and Vince, of course, wouldn't let that happen. Not on national television, or not on pay-per-view. And he knew that if he didn't choose to ignore this, he would help WCW. So he ignored it, which was the smart choice. The not so smart choice was again a choice that Eric Bischoff made. He and the fans counted Vince McMahon out, and he won via disqualification and forfeit and whatever. And he was announced the winner, and he was like, oh yeah, ooh, I beat Vince McMahon. And yeah, in the end, the weeks that followed, he still was quite proud of his victory. And he even sat in the ring with Harley like, oh yeah, bitch, I'm the fucking king of the wrestling business. And it made it so much more ridiculous and so much more, or so much sillier. It really was embarrassing. Embarrassing is the word. It was bad, horrible, and most of all embarrassing. Almost as embarrassing as saying that Vince accepted the challenge, which he didn't, that he weighs 265 pounds, which at that time I really doubt he weighed. For those who prefer the metric system, that's about 120 kilos, so embarrassing. The fight that never happened, for a good reason. It didn't happen. Luckily, there was some good stuff on the pay-per-view too. The next topic is the title action. The opener was a TV title match between Fit Finlay and Chris Benoit. And yeah, as one could have expected, Chris Benoit and Finlay both are very intense guys. They were very technically versatile. So, of course, their match, as was to be expected, from a wrestling standpoint of view, was well done. But in the end, for me, the certain it factor was missing from the match. It was a nice match, but nothing extraordinary. So Booker T came to the ring. He had some beef with Chris Benoit at the time, and he distracted Benoit so that Finlay could turn the match around again and win in the end. So it was a nice match, but both men could have done better. The next match, in terms of title action, isn't actually a title match, but a number one contendership match for the Cruiserweight title. The winner would go on to face Chris Jericho afterwards, right after the match. And, well, it wasn't a one-on-one match, it was a battle royal. And I don't even want to talk about every guy that was in this match, because there were quite some of them. And in the end, Dean Malenko won the thing. He was disguised as Cyclope, and well, it was a very short match. And my personal highlight was Chris Jericho announcing all the guys as they went in. And if Chris Jericho announces the guys that went in and wanted to challenge him for his title, of course he ridiculed them. No surprise there. And, well, another highlight was Cyclope demasking himself and turning out to be Dean Malenko. Anyway, back to the match itself. Bobby Heenan said on commentary, and this is a quote, "I don't even really care for this match. I'm just impressed with Chris Jericho's introductions." Yeah, that's a nice thing to say about a number one contendership match for one of your titles. And as Chris Jericho has mentioned in lots of documentaries, or maybe it's every time it's the same segment and they just reuse it, I don't really give a shit right now, because he's right. Back in the day, the Cruiserweight division was the backbone of WCW. The main events had the big names, but they sucked in the ring. The Cruiserweight action was what really differentiated WCW from WWF or E or whatever. So, that's a nice way to really put down your own title and a match you show on pay-per-view. Great strategy. Great strategy. On the other hand, well, this was a clusterfuck battle royal, and there were a lot of talented guys in there. Even Heenan acknowledged that. But for such battle royals are not exactly known for high-quality wrestling or high-quality in-ring action. Well, in between or during the course of the match and in the end, of course, there was some high flying, but it didn't really matter and it didn't really help the match itself. One of the worst parts was Psychosis elimination, because it was like a bad comedy, like some cheesy slapstick stuff from Beyond the Grave. I don't know, it really sucked him. I mean, he was like, I'm running into the corner, and the other guy evades, but he doesn't clash into the corner and goes over the top rope. He sort of jumps onto the top rope, which makes absolutely no fucking sense at that moment. And, well, he could have saved himself, but no, he jumps out of the ring. Come on, what was that supposed to be? I don't know. I don't think anybody really knows. Another thing, Juventud Guerrera forfeits the match, so Malenko can go against Chris Jericho. He is like, oh well, Cyclone and I are the only guys left. Handshake, good luck, win your match, I'm out of here. Like, you're just like, what the fuck did I just see? Oh, Cyclope is Dean Malenko. That saved the moment a little bit, but still, if you really want to emphasize the prestige of a title or give a match a meaningful ending that doesn't, that doesn't really make the whole match pointless, you don't do that. But WCW did. So, well, after that, the next match immediately starts, and Dean Malenko and Chris Jericho are going at it. Mostly Malenko was going at it in the beginning. Well, the match itself was rather short because, well, Dean Malenko was like 9 minutes into a battle royal where he didn't do that much. Because, well, it's so crowded in the ring, you can't really do that much. And yeah, still it was a short match, and you really saw Dean Malenko was fed up with being the joke of WCW. And yeah, well, he proved that he definitely was no joke. And it was a nice match, a little bit short, but one of the better matches this evening. And another thing I want to mention here, I mean, come on, WCW. Come on, WCW. I mean, it's no surprise they went out of business if they have a talented guy like Dean Malenko. And the pay-per-view before that, I think it was a Spring Stampede, after he lost his match, Mean Gene comes up to him and thinks, where are things going for Dean Malenko? Or where's Dean Malenko going from here? He just says home, and he really rips him for being a loser and whatnot. And you just look at it and think, honestly, why don't you push such a guy to be more and be a bigger star? Why do you put him down like that? I mean, even if he rose afterwards again, you just don't do it that way. It doesn't work. It didn't work back then, it didn't work before, and, well, for WWE, it does not work now. So, it just does not work. Anyway, the US title was also on the line, and Bill Goldberg, still undefeated at that point, again faced Saturn, and Saturn had a new tactic for this match. After the last match was like, well, let's see what the flock can do for me. Didn't work out well for him. He tried to, exhaust Goldberg with rest holds or sleeper holds, and, well, it made sense. But, well, we all know wasn't exactly a successful tactic. And the match, again, was short. Again, in the sense of there were a lot of short matches on this pay-per-view, and the last match wasn't too long either. So, but still, it wasn't a bad match. One of the better matches Goldberg had at that point, but still not a really good match, because not even Saturn could pull Goldberg through a match and make it great, or really good. So, last topic, the other fights. Well, right after the opener, Lex Luger and Bryan Adams fought each other. There was a whole lot of story between the NWO and Lex Luger. We all know that. And, of course, with the Rick Steiner situation. So, but Lex Luger against Bryan Adams. That sounds like an awesome match, doesn't it? And it was breathtaking, I gotta tell you that. It was breathtaking. It's really breathtaking to see that WCW actually thought it was a great idea, and this was something pay-per-view worthy, and people would pay money to see this match. that really took my breath away. I literally was like, I mean, well, of course, back then the people thought, hey, it's WCW or Wolfpack against the NWO Hollywood. It really interested them back then. Why? I really don't know. The only thing I know, this match was pure bullshit. Not a good match. Definitely not a good match. Almost as bad as the match that never happened. I wish this was a match that never happened, but another match was DDP versus Raven, and they still had their differences, to put it nicely. They had very, very much beef back then. And yeah, for them it was a Bowery Death Cage match. That sounds not ridiculous, sounds ludicrous. It's really... I want to use big words here. It was abhorrent, or it sounded abhorrent. I mean, come on, Bowery Death Cage match. That sounds just plain awful, but it wasn't. It was, to be honest, it was a last man standing match in a cage, and as a hardcore cage match, it was way cooler than Chris Jericho versus Dean Ambrose last Sunday. There was lots of, there were a lot of weapons used. It was, yeah, there was a lot of suspense, and yeah, to sum up, it was a fun match. Not exactly great, but it was fun to watch. It was entertaining. And yeah, well, we all knew that the flock would interfere, but Van Hammer, woo! Van Hammer really stopped the interference until the Riot Squad, yeah, showed themselves as members of the flock. So, well, didn't last too long. The save Van Hammer did, but in the end it didn't matter. DDP won. So, for the more classic quality wrestling, we had Eddie Guerrero versus Ultimo Dragon. And this match, yeah, well, wasn't too long either. Another rather short match with 11 minutes. And I would have loved to see more of it, or a longer match between those two, but, well, they really utilized the time they had to make a nice match. Not the best match they both had against each other, but still very good. Oh, and yeah, the last match I'm going to talk about, and no surprise here, it's another disappointment. Whoa. It wasn't for the world title because, well, Hogan was champion. And whenever Hollywood Hulk Hogan was champion in WCW, yeah, we didn't get a lot of title matches because, yeah, because I really don't have an explanation. Maybe Hogan just didn't feel like it. Maybe he even lost his smile. Let's get serious here. Whenever Hogan was champion, there weren't a lot of championship matches for the world title. This time, well, maybe what was a blessing because Hogan sucked at the time. He always sucked in the ring, but at that time he sucked really bad. And of course the Randy Savage versus Bret Hart feud was way more interesting than anything Hogan could have done, because Randy Savage and Bret Hart, well, Savage won the championship, and Bret Hart the next day helped Hogan regain it after he had lost it way back. He helped Hogan, and Savage wasn't too fond of that. Roddy Piper was the special guest referee because, well, Hart and Savage had some serious beef, after what happened with the title change and whatnot, and they really had serious beef. But, and this is the point where it really gets bad, the match itself was very boring. It's hard to stay awake even in the middle of the day watching this match, because Hart dominates most of the match and Macho Man sells and he keeps hanging in there. He has one or two hope spots, and in the end, yeah, he gets his comeback, and it drags on and drags on and drags on, and it's... Oh, I mean, if you thought the Ambrose versus Chris Jericho Asylum match took too long and was too slow and not exciting enough and had not much flow, well, you shouldn't watch this match. It really dragged on. And it wasn't as long as the other match I mentioned, but it really dragged on and was boring as hell. And after this fight that should have been intense like few things you've seen before, well, it wasn't, but at the end of this match you had the typical WCW uppercut main event kind of stuff. Hogan interferes, there's a bullshit DQ ending, and the match just disappointed. Big time. I mean, you have guys like Randy Savage, who at least had his moments in WCW, and you have Bret Hart, and yeah, well, the Montreal Screwjob was way nicer than what WCW did with Bret Hart. Gotta be honest about that. So, another stinker. So, to sum up, typical WCW pay-per-view from the late 90s. There were some good matches in the undercard and in the midcard. There were some stinkers, and of course the main events sucked. And yeah, to be honest, often the midcard saved the pay-per-views and in the end brought it to a, yeah, well, it was okay. This time, no, it was not okay. It was as average as you can get, because the highlights are not high enough to even out the bullshit that went on in the main events, and especially the whole farce evolving around Eric Bischoff and Vince McMahon, because I have used a lot of words to describe how fucking silly and embarrassing and this was. So, mediocre pay-per-view, but just because some of the mid-card and undercard action was quite decent and good. So, hopefully you enjoyed the pay-per-view. The pay-per-view. I really don't see how you could have enjoyed Slamboree 1998. I really hope you enjoyed my review, and yeah, maybe you'll tune in for the next stuff I'll do. The Cody Rhodes look at the WWE stars. Cody Rhodes will follow, I think, tomorrow. I'll do it right now, but I'll upload it tomorrow. And yeah, well, after that we'll see what comes next. But hopefully you'll tune in. So long, your Sakri fellow.